Hi, this is Bethany Matsky, and this is my biblical perspective with software project methods with Professor Greg Wells. We are working our way all the way through chapter 8 and 9 with biblical management principles under Harvest Time International. I've double checked that my internal microphone is on high sensitivity, so I'm hoping that this journal will be clearly recorded. So when we look at chapter 8, it is talking about guidelines for decision making. And this is a step-by-step approach which seems simplified, but once you get into the core of analyzing the details, it is pretty helpful to make sure you have biblical guidelines within your decision making. The first step is to identify the problem. Second is a model of biblical standards. And question 1, is this a biblical command? Question 2, is this a question of practice? This means, is this something that glorifies God? Does it follow your motivation? Is it necessary in your spiritual growth? And to know that it would be questionable is if it compromises any of your standards, if it has any temptation or a violation that comes about it. And the third aspect is if this goes into a life situation, and this is a moment of meditation to pray, study God's Word, and then seek counsel. This may be one of those decision making that's hard for us to understand if it's going into that life situation. So that one cannot be taken very lightly, but God's comfort and guidance for wisdom should be there. And then after we've looked at the model, there is various options of risks, resources, and results to give the best solution. To know you've made the right decision is the inner peace that God's Holy Divine Spirit will give you if you feel that you are making the best decision. And finally will be to communicate, implement, and evaluate this decision. My concordance, Zondervan, says problems must be confronted and all sides of the argument must be given a fair hearing. The discussion should be held in the presence of leaders who are spiritually mature and trustworthy to make wise decisions. Everyone should then abide by the decisions. So this helps us evaluate how our decision making will affect others and leads into chapter 9 when conflict happens out of these decisions. So ideally, if we're all mature, spiritual adults handling these decisions and working together, we should be able to find a way to agree, or at least civilly agree to disagree. But things may not always happen that way. So chapter 9 falls into identifying that discipline is the correction of those who are wrong. A conflict is a fight or a quarrel. A good leader must provide correction and be able to solve problems between his followers. Now, as a parent of 2 children, I immediately think of how I provide discipline and correction to my 2 children on a daily event. But in a workplace, I can think back on moments where I was learning my work ethic and I was having to find my way, and I had effective managers that found peace in between any of our situations. And the principles do outline how Paul and Barnabas did disagree with Mark and how that put a split in between the 2 mission endeavors. And then there was a time that people did not always agree. And so these 2 great missionaries did not agree, but eventually it did come out to be an asset that they were able to still work towards God's will and let God come first. So they were great prophets of the Bible, and they still had a problem working together for the common good. So that's a good example to show that it can and will happen, and then there's steps that we can take. Some of the biblically based guidelines to avoid this conflict is good communication, careful planning, strong relationships, and sincere appreciation with humble approach to your own mistakes. In summary, to manage conflict, one must pray for wisdom, listen to suggestions, and apply Matthew 18:15 if there is a personal strife with another person. Always be tactful in the discussion of one matter at a time, and then apply gratitude to God for His divine energy. Thank you, Professor Greg Wells, for your patience, and I enjoyed this Bible study and application to biblical principles. Have a great day.